This is a very important session, and I requested my colleague Shrimoy to give me the honor of presenting the next person. It's not going to be a panelist, but she's going to speak about something which she's doing an exceptional job, and she's an extremely important person for us in the progress for the development of infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Vinita Hariharan, Chief Program Officer, Rurban under the Ministry of Rural Development. Ladies and gentlemen, please give her a big round of applause. She has come despite having a lot of appointments. All yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have to leave in a hurry. I have to leave another 10 minutes. So I'll give a quick presentation of what we're doing at the Ministry of Rural Development in terms of development of rural areas and how we are providing amenities in rural areas which are perceived to be urban but also essential for sustainable development of any region. So this is called the National Rural-Urban Mission. The vision goes as development of a cluster of villages that preserve and nurture the essence of a rural community life and provide the facilities that are perceived to be urban. Why we say perceived to be urban is because what is urban is not necessarily good, but what are the facilities that are only the urban areas are privileged to get. We're trying to provide them in rural areas. So if I were to speak in Hindi, it would be Atma Gaon ki, Suvidhaएं Shahar ki. That's how our motto goes. What was the inception? Of course, however much that we want to believe that we are a fast urbanizing nation, we still are predominantly rural. 68% of our population still resides in rural areas. So we can't ignore that sector of our population. And what has been hitherto ignored by policymakers so far is that there is a propensity for rural areas to thrive in clusters. So no program or policy has been directed towards development of a cluster of Gram Panchayats. Till now, the Ministry of Rural Development, whatever programs have been crafted and implemented, they've all been directed towards single Gram Panchayats. So this is the first time in the country, first time in the history of the nation that there is a program from the Ministry of Rural Development for development of clusters of Gram Panchayats. And so taking all this into account and the importance of cluster development in rural areas, the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban Mission or the National Rurban Mission was conceptualized, and it was launched by the Prime Minister on the 15th of February in 2016 in Dongargarh in Chhattisgarh, and we got the Union Cabinet approval on 16 September in 2015. 2015 we got the Union Cabinet and we got the Prime Minister to launch it in February 2016. So it's not an easy job when for all of you sitting on the other side, to explain as to how difficult it is to actually craft a policy and then after that implement a program. And crafting a policy itself is a back-breaking exercise, and we've had 6 months of intense, grueling drawing board exercises in the Ministry of Rural Development, after which we reached this stage. So this was quite a self-actualizing moment for all of us there. So what are we doing here? So what are we defining a cluster as? It's called a Rurban cluster. It's slightly tongue-twisting. It's urban, rural and urban. So how are they selected? So we've defined a cluster as a group of contiguous villages which has a population of 25 to 50 in plain areas, and we've given an optimum population of 5 to 15 in desert, hilly and tribal areas. And the selection of these clusters were also done in a very scientific manner, so which is what won the heart of the Prime Minister, so to speak. That is the cluster selection methodology which we had evolved, and which was a very scientific method in which we had actually culled out the fastest growing districts. What we did is we have a strong emphasis for development of tribal areas in this program. So for tribal areas, we culled out the top 100 tribal districts from the Census of India. And for the non-tribal districts, we further ranked them based on the decadal increase in rural population. And we took out the fastest growing sub-districts in terms of the growth in rural population, and then further ranked them based on various parameters of growth. So once we've done this exercise, we selected the sub-districts. This is an example of a sub-district, the sub-district selection in Tamil Nadu. So once we ranked them, we had a list of around 20 sub-districts which we gave the state governments. So why we did this is to marry both science and political discretion, political will as well. So if we want to have both, we can't just impose a list of sub-districts to the state governments. They also need to have the will and freedom to choose, and also to get the, the collaboration of the existing political frameworks there. So we gave this list of 20 sub-districts to the state governments, and then they selected the sub-districts based on an allocation. The allocation was also done based on a formula. And then they were asked to actually form clusters using a Google imagery, wherein they selected the fastest growing Gram Panchayat and took a 5-kilometer radius, and we asked them to capture all the Gram Panchayats that were falling within this 5-kilometer radius. And once they formed these clusters, they then ranked them further based on various growth parameters. So this is how the cluster list is actually given to us. Surprisingly, all the state governments are on board, and they've all done this exercise in a very engaged manner. And so yeah, in a very engaged manner, we had to do a lot of hand-holding, but finally they actually gave us a list of almost, now we are at 196 clusters today, identified and approved by the ministry using this methodology. For tribal clusters, of course, we had a different ranking and selection process, wherein we just took the top 100 tribal districts and then further ranked them based on tribal parameters. So this is Madhya Pradesh, tribal, it's predominantly tribal. So Madhya Pradesh gets a lot of clusters under our program, because by virtue of being the largest, one of the largest states, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh get the maximum number of clusters. However much we want or don't want to give them clusters because of various other factors, we have to necessarily give them the largest number. So Madhya Pradesh gets, I think, around 20 and odd, and Uttar Pradesh also around 26 clusters. And so it's all the more difficult for us to implement the program, but yeah. So this is a typical cluster, tribal cluster in Madhya Pradesh. Yeah. Then the tribal cluster selection again follows a ranking parameter. So following this, we've had 100 clusters have been approved, and that was launched by the Prime Minister in the launch program in Chhattisgarh. In 28 states, they've been ranked based on this methodology and selected and approved, and work is also ongoing in all these clusters. So today we are at 116 clusters, 196 clusters actually, which have been approved. And for beyond this now, again, for the first time in the country, we are also actually declaring these clusters as planning areas, which is again the first time that in rural areas, we are actually making well-planned clusters. So well-planned is not just a colloquial planning terminology, but it's actually following the statutes of the town and country planning. And they would have a master plan in place. So all these clusters would be having a master plan, a land use plan, and the development would actually be following the land use plan. And for those states which have a very strong Panchayati Raj Act, for example, Andhra Pradesh and Rajasthan, they have their Gram Panchayats empowered to notify clusters as planning areas. So for those states, we have left it to the Rural Development Department to actually do the notification, while they take the help of the town and country planning to make the master plans. So why we did this is because a lot of rural bodies are actually getting threatened that perhaps their clusters would be declared as urban, and so their fiefdom is lost. So we're trying to slowly transit towards making Gram Panchayats, empowering Gram Panchayats to actually do this process. So, but it will take some time, because not all states have the Panchayati Raj Acts in place wherein the Gram Panchayats are empowered. So meanwhile, we're taking the help of the town and country planning, and ultimately we'll hand it over to the Rural Development Department. So this was how it was done in Uttarakhand, where they have actually done a land use planning for every single village in every single GP in the cluster. So they've actually done a spatial planning for each GP. And these are some of the clusters of Odisha, which the clusters finally take an amorphous shape like this because they take the boundaries of the GPs. So those Google Maps then get actually morphed into the actual boundaries of the cluster. So, how are we going to develop these clusters? What we envisaged was there have to be at least 14 desirable components for a sustainable development of any cluster, beginning with skill development, provision of skills to all households linked to economic activities, LPG gas connections in every household, solid waste management collection facilities to each household, 24/7 piped water supply, toilets in every household, village streets with covered drains and street lights. And at the cluster level, we've said that ideally you should have a solid waste treatment plant. It could be ideally a vermicomposting unit or any other appropriate solid waste management technology that they can use. Good GP to GP connectivity, state-of-the-art schools, an agro-processing center, because that's very important because our economy is slowly shifting towards the services sector, and although more than 60% is still dependent on agriculture. So in order to revive the agriculture sector, so we've got a via media in which we have said that we give a thrust to development of agro-processing industries and allied sectors. So which is very interesting because in all these 116 plans that we've got, most of them have given a thrust to development of agro-processing units in their clusters, which ranges from potato processing units to rice processing, to floriculture, horticulture, then poly houses in Himachal. So it's a very interesting array of projects that we've received. And we're talking about a mobile health unit or a state-of-the-art health facilities and a fully equipped e-gram center or digital literacy to all in the cluster. So how are we capturing the requirements for a cluster? It's through something called an ICAP, which is an integrated cluster action plan, which actually is a strategy or a blueprint for development of the clusters, wherein the broad investment requirements are captured in the cluster. And we've asked the state governments to bucket their requirement into various categories such as economic, basic, social, and digital, while giving equal emphasis to all, but concentrating on developing some thematic strength for the cluster, so which is basically developing the economy of the cluster, while also saturating basic and social amenities to help that economic activity to thrive. So that's how we've envisaged that the plans should be prepared, and many of the state governments are falling in line and preparing plans in this, following this methodology. Although initially it was just streets and drains, and we've had to engage with them and handhold them and say that this kind of money is not available easily. While in that context, I would also like to talk about the project funding, in which 30% of the funds is actually coming from the mission for a cluster, and 70% they have to converge from various other synergic programs. So the 70% of the funds are basically used for saturation of outcomes such as streets, drains, sanitation, LPG gas connections, for which there's already a slew of central government programs in place. So the state governments essentially tapping the synergic state government programs as well as the central government programs, so saturating those outcomes. While as a critical gap funding, we're focusing on developing a key economic strength for the cluster. And so 98 ICAPs have been received in phase 1, and this is a typical investments. This is an analysis of the 98 plans that we have received. So we have a large focus on basic amenities, followed by economic and social. But this is also slightly misleading because basic amenities are capital intensive. So roads and drains and bridges, they they consume a lot of capital costs. So therefore, the graph shows that basic amenities is the focus. But there's also been a substantial focus in economic amenities. So this is the typical distribution of the investments. If you see the critical gap funding, most of it is used for agriculture, then drinking water, tourism, a bit of money on tourism as well, and distributed in other domains such as education, lighting, etc. And the convergence money, like I said, is focused on saturation of outcomes such as water, sanitation, etc. So there's also some amount of investment going on solid waste management in the critical gap funding, which is interesting because most of these clusters, like as in urban areas, rural areas definitely don't have any kind of solid waste management practices or anything that's happening in the clusters. So a lot of this critical gap funding money is actually being used to develop solid waste management facilities that lead to zero waste clusters. So. And in the second phase is a slight improvement with an emphasis on economic activity increasing. So we hope to improve the spending pattern slowly so that the graph then goes this way, wherein we have a higher spend on economic and social and reduce spending on basic, for which, but we need time. Our mission period is just 3 years, but in 3 years we cannot do the magic of inverting the graph, but we are trying our best to go there. So how are we actually going towards the SDGs? It's interesting to see that a lot of our money is actually going on industry, innovation, and infrastructure, which is the number 9, SDG goal number 9, and some of it on goal number 11, which is sustainable cities, which is like a proxy, a cluster is a proxy to a sustainable city, and a substantial also on quality education, good health care. And these are the direct outcomes of our mission, but indirectly we are also catering to goals 1, 2, 10, 7, and 16. So, and these clusters are not just now on blueprint stage. A lot of work is going on the ground. Almost 1,500 crores worth of projects are ongoing in these clusters. And a lot of states are doing, taking up this mission in a very engaged manner. A lot of construction activities in terms of developing a basic amenities as well as skill development, etc., is going on across the country in 29 states. And we've also had the union territories on board in phase 2 now. So these are some pictures of what's happening on the ground in Rurban. So if you want to know further, you could look at our website, rurban.gov.in. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. In spite of your busy schedule, you came here and gave us such an insightful discussion. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure most of us would have questions. I do have mine as well for you, but we can definitely interact with you. Maybe later we understand that you need to leave for a very important... Yeah, you can? Yeah. Okay. Can I please request the audience, ma'am has time for 2 questions. So is there something that you're really, dying to ask her at this stage? Yes, please. So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. Thanks for the enlightening talk and the presentation. I have one question. You see, the government schemes have been, it's not that now we are launching something, although it's a new initiative, but the government schemes have been in place for tens of years, for decades, and there have been a slew of government schemes for the rural sector. And still, we do not see much happening. Even 50% of the villages today don't have electricity, the water, all those problems continue to be there. Are you also looking at some private partnerships? Because you see, what I understand is that the implementation from the government side is a big issue. So for the implementation part, are you looking at some private partnerships?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Implementation is a Herculean task, but all that is government is also not that bad. We have started a new story here. So I can say from my experience in the last 2 years with this government, it's not to take any political affiliations, but the implementation is going on in a very frenetic pace, and just like now I've just eked out time for 10 minutes to come here, but it's absolutely maddening the pace at which implementation is being attempted at. It's very it's really commendable. So I see some hope here in terms of implementation of government programs, which has never been there before, because I've also worked in the earlier regime. So there is a lot of thrust on implementation and improving the dissemination of and scaling up programs. So which is happening, it's like a carpet bombing that's happening now. So everywhere you see activity happening. So definitely there will be some result at the end of it. But coming to your point of public-private partnership, yeah, we are encouraging PPPs to be there. So the state governments are essentially now identifying these projects in their plans, and they're also identifying various projects which they can do it through PPP mode. So private sector investments is most welcome.
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Sure, yeah.
This is related to the sustainable development goals that you were talking about.
Right.
What I basically wanted to know is the alignment with the SDGs that's happening, and how you're mapping it to the various initiatives, to the cluster-wide initiatives that you're doing. is it based on some kind of a trend analysis that has happened for these clusters over the
Right.
last 3 or 5 years, or is it that we are now really gearing up to address some of the SDGs? So if you could just throw light on
Yeah,
that
the
aspect.
SDG analysis was basically based on the plans that they had submitted. We've analyzed the investments that have been identified in those plans and how they actually synergize with the SDG goals. So that's the exercise
So
that we
basically,
have
we're
done.
starting off with...
We are starting off, yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.